Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where for the last few days I've been living with this 2024 BMW X6 M60i. And this car actually comes at a really good time because just a few weeks ago I was driving the new G05 X5M competition, and I kind of emerged from that video thinking, well, you don't really need the full M. The car that you should have is the M60i. And while I know that this isn't an X5, it's an X6, but if you ignore the back part of it, from the B pillar forward, this is the exact same as an X5. So what I want to find out today is this X6 or X5 M60i the proper trim to have of this car? And in addition to that, we're going to show you what it's like to live with the X6, because this is not in terms a sports activity vehicle. This is a sports activity coupe, SAC or SAC, if you will. And well, the X6 has been around since 2008, so it's now in its 17th model year. I can't believe it has lasted this long, but here we are. It is still in front of me, and well, we have to remember that BMW kind of started this coupe SUV trend. Mercedes has followed, Porsche has followed, Aston Martin has followed, Genesis has followed now with the GV80 coupe, and I'm sure there are a number of other ones that I'm forgetting, but we have BMW to blame for this very strange, sort of impractical lifted coupe that's sort of an SUV thing. And well, I've got to say, for 2024, it's been facelifted, the G06 body code, and well, to be nice about it, it's certainly an acquired taste. At least the spec on this one is nice. It's finished in Tanzanite Blue 2 over a Tartufo interior, which I looked up, it's Italian for like a gelato dessert. I think that kind of describes that color pretty well, but I always love a good like blue on saddle spec. So the X6 M60i starts at around 93 grand. This one, as tested today, is $113,000, and that is because it has pretty much every conceivable option possible to add onto an M60i BMW SUV. So here we are. We have some 22-inch optional wheels. I believe these are style 742. We have some 315 30 section tires on the back, and on the front, these are Pirelli P0s, by the way. On the front, we have a 275 35 section tire. This is the thing though, because these cars, generally, they're always going to have a larger wheel, especially with an M or an M Sport trim. But the problem with the full M car is it's so stiff and it's so just like ready to kill you at all times that I think where this comes in is it is still able to be soft and daily drivable. And well, we'll see if the X6 portion of this doesn't just cancel all of that out today. But anyways, all right, let's actually like show you around the car now, and we'll take it out on the road after we have done that. So the most, of course, controversial part about the X6 is the sloping rear roof line right here, as we can see, and the cargo area is the most affected by this, and the back seat, but we'll get there. We have this folding privacy shade, which is very satisfying to operate, and it is fully removable. If you pull out towards you, it does fully detach from the car. We still have a pretty decent amount of room back here. I mean, the actual cargo space on the floor is no different than the actual X5. It's height where you kind of lose out with the X6. Underneath our trunk floor, which has a shock, which I think is the best thing ever fitted to any vehicle, we have a spare wheel. We have a little bit of storage here, which is currently being used up by a front plate bracket and an owner's manual. And we've got a toolkit right here. We have what says it's a first aid kit, but all I can see back there is an amp for our Bowers & Wilkins sound system, so not really sure what that's about. And we also have a 12-volt outlet back here. So, of course, since this is still an SUV of sorts, you can fold the seats down and have a pretty flat loading surface. So if you're using this to transport things that are very long and skinny, you do still have some room. And all jokes aside, this roof isn't so low that it's unusable. It's just less usable than the much more attractive sister car to this, the X5. Okay, let's hop in the back. You can see we have a little bit of some sloping downwards here in the rear passenger compartment, but what I think BMW's done is they've mounted the rear seats a little bit lower than they are in the X5. And I could be crazy, but To me, I feel like I'm sitting very low in this back seat, and that would make sense because you have less headroom. But as a 5'11" individual sat behind myself, I've got enough room back here to do pretty much anything I want to do, including if I wanted to mount an iPad to the back of one of the seats, you're able to do that, and you've got a little USB-C input right there. So it is an executive back seat, sort of. You've got your own climate control panel back here with heated seats, which turn on while the car is off. That's peculiar. Climate vents, of course, and you have some sunshades, which would be nice on a day like today. It's sunny, it's windy, it's humid, and that's the Michigan way this time of year. Fold-down armrest, cubby. You've got some cup holders here, which sound like they break when you put them away. And we'll give you a look up front, and then we'll talk about what's under the hood of this X6 M60i, which is another reason why, in my opinion, this is the best one to get, because under the hood of this M60i, we have the same S68 4.4 liter twin power turbo V8 that you find in the X5M or the X6M. It's just slightly detuned, as opposed to the 600 horsepower plus that you get in, I forgot I have to pull this twice, as opposed to the 600 horsepower plus that you get in the M cars. This one makes 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque, but it's the same setup. It still has the 48-volt mild hybrid system. It still even has a very similar engine cover. You just don't get the little red trim in the middle, but you still get an M badge. Some pretty good chassis bracing here, as you can see. Twin intakes there mounted on top. Pretty good bit of sound deadening or fire resistant material there on top. 0W30 oil for this S68. So, in my opinion, just a number of things that make this M60 trim seem very attractive. So, now that we've gotten all of the X6 little silly things out of the way, let's forget about the rear 50% of this car and jump into the front and take it for a drive and see what it's like to live with. Up front, gave you a bit of a sneak peek of these earlier, but we've got some very comfortable full leather seats, ton of adjustment here. And otherwise, very standard BMW corporate interior. This steering wheel is pretty much in everything nowadays, M Sport. And one thing I don't super love is that, this is going to sound really silly, but bear with me, is that you get M stitching in a car that isn't a full M. I feel like the M stitching steering wheel should be reserved for the full M car. Granted, the M steering wheel, it's a bit thicker. It's got the big carbon fiber paddle shifters on it, but I don't know. I'm weird in that way where I think there should be just a little bit more exclusivity for the full M car, as opposed to an M60i. Additionally, in here, we have carbon fiber trim. That is an option. We have, what else do we have in this car? We have the Bowers & Wilkins sound system. That's a $3,400 option. And just about every package that you can get on this thing, we have. And I'll put those packages in the description because there's like 7 of them and I have not memorized them all. I apologize for being a bad YouTuber in that sense. Let's start it up. It's super hot in here. And let's get this AC going just a bit. This, of course, has iDrive 8, which means everything is integrated into this infotainment screen, and we're going to run with this AC on a little bit high until we get out onto the road, but these are our fan controls in here. Home screen, I mean, everything works nicely, which is the nice thing about iDrive 8 is that you're not waiting for the screen to react ever. Inputs are super nice. Wireless CarPlay has been pretty good this week. I haven't had any connectivity issues, which I do usually have in BMWs, but this car has behaved nicely for me. We've got a storage cubby here in the middle, which will melt your iPhone 15, but they've thought of that, and they've given you a little slot next to the wireless charger, which is just kind of a dead space, and then a USB-A port as well. 2 cup holders, but you can hide all of that away and kind of simplify the look in here, which is nice. We have these optional glass controls on this car, which gives you the tiny little crystal shift nub, I think I'll call it, because this is certainly not a shift knob. Crystal start-stop button and iDrive controller as well. Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro, hill descent control, easy access to traction control off. All of the normal corporate BMW things in this X6 M60i. Okay, where this car really shines is on the road. So let's get this X6 M60i out of the parking lot and out onto the open road. Start with showing you the reverse camera. Very nice. Steering is super light and precise when you are in your Comfort or Eco Pro drive mode. Having that 48-volt mild hybrid system means you do have start-stop that activates before you come to a complete stop, usually at about, I don't know, 5 to 10 miles an hour. The car will turn off. I'm just noticing a bit of an interior rattle over there on the right-hand side. I guess I've had my Bowers & Wilkins turned up too loud this week. Haven't observed the cabin at an ambient level yet. Oh, that is just a wonderful, honest V8 noise. Dare I say it sounds better than the full M. I think the reason I think this car sounds better is because there's nothing simulated in here. There's no piped-in engine noise, there's no fake popping noises, there's no sort of like weird boominess inside here. It's just an honest European 4.4 liter V8, and I absolutely love that. And this is in comfort mode. Let's bump it into Sport Plus. Put the transmission into Sport. This is, of course, a ZF 8-speed unit. And it fires off gear changes, and this is a properly quick car. I mean, it's a big heavy thing, it's all-wheel drive, but at the end of the day, it's still a big V8 Beamer. Oh my goodness, look at the wheel and tire setup on this Jeep Compass. I've lost every other train of thought. Look. Precise telepathic reaction from these steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. And I'm still getting every bit of what I want from this car. Even though this isn't the full M, I personally don't feel like there's anything left on the table. You have to remember, this is a big SUV, or sorry, it's a big sack. So I'm not expecting this to be smashing Nürburgring times or breaking my back into pieces. This is, in my opinion, and I'm validating this right now, this is the best trim to have this car in. End of story. It checks all the boxes. It has the same engine as the M car, but I can put this now into comfort mode, back into drive. And this is a particularly rough section of road up here, and we'll go over it. Super rough section of road. No idea it's even there. Very, very nice ride. And this has the dynamic handling package, which gives us the M adaptive dampers. So it is able to soften itself up quite a bit, which is so important with a car like this. Okay, let's actually talk about what we're doing today, because I'm just now realizing I got so caught up in my silly X6 opinions that I forgot to say what we're even doing on our drive today. So we're gonna go into town. I've got a couple errands I need to run that include using the rear cargo area. So we're gonna see how livable this X6 M60i is, or any X6 for that matter. But before we do all of that, we gotta do a launch control, because when I tell you guys, the launch control on this is so nauseating and so brisk that, I mean, this has to do a sub 4 seconds 0 to 60. So what you do here is you put the car into Sport Plus mode, you put your transmission into Sport 1, you put traction into Sport. All right, we should be set up. Full left foot brake, full right foot on the throttle, and release. Launch control active. Okay. That's as brisk as any SUV should be. It's just, what a thing this car is. Or SUV, or SAC, whatever. What a thing this machine vehicle is. Ooh, big downshift. You know what, let's leave it in sport mode for another second while we pull back out onto the highway. And it still gets pretty dang snappy there in sport mode. I mean, it doesn't beat you up as much as the full M car does, but... Alright, back into comfort, back into drive. Let's turn traction back on. Let's settle into this X6 M60i and talk about what this car has been like to live with. Now, this car has a lot of optional extras. For your $93,000 base price, you don't get certain things like the full driving assistance, the adaptive dampers, the glass controls. It's kind of silly to think that you have to spec this up dang near to the price of the full X6M competition, which is only about 10 grand more than this car as spec'd, which probably explains why so many people just go ahead and go for the full M car. The beauty of these M Sport level BMWs is that they're so versatile, they're so Jekyll and Hyde that with the press of a button, you forget you're in anything that has even the remote whiff of an M badge on the back. And even with the V8 cars, they still are able to perform in such a way. I mean, I can put this car into Eco Pro mode right now, which turns the cluster a nice little blue color, which I do like, and it makes the ambient lighting blue, which is very polite. And you pretty much forget that you have a V8 motor in front of you because it just shuts everything off. Just the slightest whiff of V8. I gotta say though, some of these engines that BMW has been building lately, from the B48 to the B58 to this S68, just absolute masterpieces. They're rowdy, they're snappy, they're snarly when you want them to be, but then you press Eco Pro and they cease to exist. I mean, the versatility with these cars is what makes them so nice. The car also sits, of course, in a much higher gear when you're in Eco Pro. We're gonna jump back into comfort just to merge here onto the highway. Now that we are floating down the highway here in this X6 M60i, let's talk about some of the driver aids before we get into anything else. So I can use this cruise control button here on the left side of the steering wheel, and that will put me into assisted driving, which is what I was using last time. You do have just regular cruise control, which you can switch into with this mode button that will just put you in what BMW calls distance control. So that is just adaptive cruise, you can use that. But I do really like BMW's assisted driving mode. That'll give you the little steering wheel icon and it will allow this X6 to do the steering for you. Now this is not Assist Plus. The system will not let you just let go of the steering wheel for extended periods of time. You can do it for like 5 to 10 seconds. Let's talk about some highway manners here with the X6. So let's turn off our cruise control and we'll talk about what this thing is like to sit in on the highway. Well, it's super comfortable overall. We do have a hard surface over here for the left knee if you are going to be resting your leg, as I tend to do. But on the right side, we've got a little bit of squish. So leg compartment is pretty nice, driver's footwell rather, and it is a pretty big opening, so you don't really have to worry about feeling cramped in this X6. Headroom up here in the front is great. I've got a ton. I mean, you could probably be 6'8" to 7 foot and still sit in this car pretty comfortably. Number of adjustability from the seat, as far as even adjusting kind of the top half of the seat. You've got a leg extension down here. You've got lumbar, which you can move up and down. You can adjust your headrest. You can power adjust the steering wheel up and down. So a ton of adjustability, a ton of room up here. And you know, it's really what you'd expect with a BMW SUV like this. I mean, none of this should really be a surprise. Elbow comfort. It's a little bit hard on the center armrest here. It is split folding, which is nice because if you have a passenger, they can open up their side and you don't have to move your elbow. Left side elbow comfort, pretty good as well. And you get the sense that this leather is pretty tough, like it's gonna hold up to the test of time, which is nice. I often worry that leather that's overly soft, like super pillowy, comfortable stuff, is just gonna wear out and tear and degrade over time. So pretty good feeling overall here in the X6. Our first stop today is going to be Whole Foods. I have to do a little bit of a grocery run. And then we're going to go to Lowe's and I'm going to get some dirt and a big pot for Emily's Monstera plant that has overgrown so much to the point that it should probably be returned to the rainforest, but we're going to try and keep it under control. So Curious to see if the large pot will kind of accommodate, or if rather the X6 will accommodate the large pot. So we'll see if it does that. Ride quality here in the X6 M60i, pretty dang good. As I mentioned earlier, the adaptive dampers do a good job. The only real bit of discomfort is from these optional 22-inch style 742 wheels, which do look excellent, but they do kind of hinder the ride quality a bit, and more so kind of just impact harshness. I mean, they don't really kill the ride too much, but you get a little bit more noise and some kind of crashiness over bumps. And from where you're sitting up here, there's no real indication that you're even in an X6 until you look in the rearview mirror and see that very puny back window, which makes me wish that this did have a camera rearview mirror for your big $93,000 base price and $113,000 price as tested, but we'll gloss over that for now. But up front, you have no real cues that you're in an X6, and that's what I do actually really like about this car, is that in every other way, it does drive identically to the X5, which in my opinion is the best car in this segment. The X5 is just such a fantastic vehicle in every configuration, from the base model to the plug-in hybrid to the M60i. And even though I've kind of talked down on the full M car, it does have a time and a place, and for what it is a fantastic piece of engineering. Coming up now to the Whole Foods parking lot. It is currently a Saturday, so that tells me that it's going to be very packed and nightmarish, so wish me luck. The good thing is, though, this X6 is pretty maneuverable. You do have a very, very quick steering rack, which means you can make quick decisions and not have to worry about the car kind of lagging behind you, which is good. Ooh, and there's an X5. Yeah, see, look how nice that is. That's the car right there. That's an M60i too. Okay, we might have to actually circle back around and park by him. I love, 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 love the light steering rack on this car when you are in a parking lot situation like this, because ease of maneuverability in a car like this is one of the most important things. And we're gonna hug this curb here. Use our 360 camera, which shows a Tanzanite blue X6. Love to see it. And get this thing tucked in here nicely. Really, really high quality backup and 360 cameras in this car. Push a button to put ourselves into park. That will automatically shut the engine off, and when you open the door, it shuts the car off completely. You are able to turn that off in the menu if you desire to do so. And we've got plenty of room next to this lovely Ford Expedition next to us, so no real need to worry about getting dinged. Pretty big spots here in this lot. I just want to step back here and show you X6 versus X5. Both are M60i's, both are 2024s. All right, well, I'm gonna go into Whole Foods. I'm gonna do some grocery shopping, and we'll see practicality as I load some groceries here into the X6, so stand by. Heading back to the car with groceries, where we're being taunted by another X5. Let's see how much room we have here in this X6 for the groceries. Now, this is literally only 2 bags of groceries, but since it was at Whole Foods, it was $70, so that's something, I guess. We could use the rear seat footwells, but I want to see if we have any sort of solutions here in the back to put just a couple of things, because a lot of the times when I go grocery shopping, it is just 2 bags, and I oftentimes get frustrated when they roll around in the back and things spill out and such. But it looks like since this entire area under here is taken up by the spare tire, which, don't get me wrong, I'm glad we have a spare tire, we will probably have to seek out a place in the rear seats to put these couple of bags, so probably just going to stick them behind the driver's seat. Of course, if you had rear seat passengers, this wouldn't necessarily be an option unless you sawed their legs off, but I think for today that will all do just fine. Also, remember, always take your shopping cart back. Don't be that person. Just don't do it. Takes an extra 30 seconds. The end. It's done. All right, here we go. Our chariot awaits. Let's use our soft closed doors. There we go. Start this thing up. This will be a good turning circle test. Getting out of here. Oh, wow. Okay. Not a super great turning circle, if I'm being honest. Oh, we also have gesture control in this car, so I can do this. Look at that. Haha. 2 different sound profiles here. We'll go through all of them. A little bit in the BMW X5M competition video about how the Bowers & Wilkins, while it is an incredibly impressive sound system, I don't know that it's necessarily worth it in this particular application because the Harman Kardon system is so good in the X5 and X6 as it is. But if you are a true audiophile and you want the absolute most out of your sound system, then BMW does still offer you this $3,400 optional Bowers & Wilkins, which I do really appreciate. Let's kind of just summarize everything because I feel like this video has been a little bit all over the place and I do apologize for that. Overall, all jokes aside, I really have enjoyed my last few days living with this X6M60i. As you can tell, and I hope I've made it very obvious throughout this video, I would much prefer the X5 because it really just does make that much more sense. It's essentially the same car from the B-pillars forward and it looks better, it's more practical, it's cheaper. And I don't know, the X6 is mainly just a status symbol. It's to kind of make you look cool, high riding in a coupe if that's your thing. The S68 is just a sweetheart. It makes fantastic noises at low speeds, just kind of lazily going around town. But when you put your foot down, you are absolutely punched in the back by that 553 pound-feet of torque. And it's just such a satisfying powertrain. Throttle inputs are so natural and progressive. Brake feel is fantastic. Steering feel is light when you need it, but it weights up nicely in sport mode. And it's really just a joy to drive this car. Let's park this X6 once again, and I'll be back with some slightly larger cargo. You can lock the car by pressing these three little lines on the driver's door handle. Unfortunately, though, no rear proxy key on this $113,000 car. The moment of truth. Can it handle a big pot and a couple things of dirt? I think this to one side. And yes, I know this is dirty. That's what vacuums are for. Thank you so much for your concern. Ugh. It's a big test of my strength today as well. Ugh. Okay. All right. I think that'll do, actually, because I can kind of wedge that right there. However, if it were to be standing up, yep, you see. Okay, so pot will have to lay on its side, but I think it'll actually work well because it can kind of wedge under this cargo cover, which can do its job and cover all the cargo. Okay, very good. There we go. We'll actually end the video on the road, but just give you guys one last little look here at the X6 before we wrap up. All right, let's get out of the wind tunnel and into our Tartufo. Oh, okay, that's it. Please give me so much air conditioning. This is great, you know, I've got 2 bags of dirt, 2 bags of groceries, and a big pot, and nothing is really being sacrificed. And I think that that has to do with just the pure size of this X6. I think that just the fact that it is such a massive vehicle means that it can get away with having this slanted roofline in the back. That doesn't take away from the fact, of course, that the X5 is still the proper choice, but if you are looking at other vehicles like the X4 or even the X2, which just kind of take the same philosophy and scale it down, I think that the X6 is kind of the only one that you can still get by with even semi-practically, so just keep that in mind. All right, guys, well, that is just about going to wrap it up for us today. If you have any questions about the X6 that I left out, make sure you leave them in the comment section, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram right here. Follow me if you don't already, and you can stay tuned with all of the cars that I have before they go on the YouTube channel. So always kind of fun to get a little bit of a sneak peek. Still a good car, still drives nice. It's just a little bit silly and ugly in the back, but we already knew that going into this, so this video kind of just validates all of that. But again, thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see ya in the next video. Take care.